All right, fuckos, we're back. We have on a very special guest that was recommended to me by my best friend Sean. He found his Facebook page and found out that he was doing all this really cool shit and seemed like a really interesting guest. He is a former Marine from the United States Marine Corps. He also makes really badass knives and weapons and shit like that he forges himself, and he was so good at it that he was able to get on the History Channel show Forged in Fire, former contestant on that show. Everybody please give it up for Jon Turner. And the clap is so weak because we're not in studio. John, I'm sorry. Pat is sitting there in our beautiful studio right now that we could be in. But oh no, there's a COVID virus going on, so we have to fucking...
Yeah. Are you in Cincinnati?
I am in Cincinnati. Yeah,
Hell
I appreciate
yeah,
it,
man.
guys. Yeah.
Once we get back in the studio, we'll get you back in here and we can talk about Luke's Claymores or whatever.
Luke has a whole... behind that fake brick wall that it looks so convincing with the creases going through it. I'm sure that you were fooled completely. How is that not actual masonry behind Luke right now? Yeah, there's actually a hoarded closet full of Luke's swords that, Luke, you should probably go grab them right now because we're talking to a knife maker. I want him to shit all over your swords because I guarantee just from the shitty Zoom thing, he's going to be able to break down how dog shit these swords are.
I want a professional rating.
Them at fucking Gatlinburg. I know that.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll pull it out. He's got to see the Spider-Man Claymore of all things.
While you're pulling that out, let's get into the first thing that, because we were talking off the mics, we had Larry Roberts on from History Channel, so weirdly enough, we've got another, person that was on, History. I didn't even know that until Sean just brought it up today. Oh yeah, he was on Forged in Fire. Oh shit, we've got two fucking History Channel alums coming on and shit like that. Can you tell us about that experience? How did that get set up in the first place?
Yeah, so basically, I got into bladesmithing just because I'm simply a nerd. I mean, that's my most asked question probably is how did you get into it? I love Lord of the Rings, so I can totally go along with the swords that Luke's got. But
fucking same,
anyway.
man.
I knew Luke was going to run back to his mic to say that. I knew it.
Yeah. Sting, Glamdring, all
especially
of it,
the elves, man. I've got Glamdring on
they got
my
some
wall
good shit.
Yeah, for sure. So 6 years ago, I'm just in my backyard with a fire pit and a claw hammer, all right, time to do this, and then here I am now and I'm doing it professionally and it's pretty wild. It's pretty cool to be a nerd, for a monetary gain. It's like best job in the world. But aside from that, so I had seen the first episode of Forged in Fire, and it was kind of a dream of mine, a goal of mine to achieve before I died, or before the show was canceled. I had to, achieve that.
What is, before you continue, what is Forged in Fire, though?
Forged in Fire is basically a 4-man competition, typically. Sometimes they have extra guests on there, but you have 6 hours, basically, in 2 rounds to make a knife, and then that knife is tested, and a person is eliminated. At the end of round 1, person's eliminated at the end of round 2, and then round 3, the final 2 contestants will go to their home forges and then compete and have 5 days to make this crazy, awesome, finale sword or battle axe or whatever, some big weapon.
And they test it out, right? They swing it against pieces of steel until it breaks, and
they cut pigs in half and sheep and goats and
that's
all
so
that kind
fucking
of
metal, dude. That's so fucking cool. That show.
Yeah, man.
Sucks
and it's
they
all
got
real.
canceled.
It's as from a person who's been there, it's all legitimate. There's no camera angles. There's no fake anything. We are all in the dark the whole time about the entire challenge. We have no idea what's going on. You've got a cameraman up your ass. And that's something I didn't plan for. I was this freaking cameraman won't get out of my space. And I'm trying to concentrate. And that always got under my skin for sure.
Yeah.
That's a part of that competition.
6 hours. You said it's 6 hours that you have. And I guess that's a really, really, really really fast time you have to go through, right?
Yeah. So the first round is 3 hours, and then that's the time you have to forge your blade, and then the second round is finishing the blade by installing handle and guard and whatever parameters that they have set. And there's also rules they pigeonhole you in a certain direction, hey, you're only allowed to use this type of steel in this certain way, and you have to include this on your handle and this on your blah blah blah. So
what are the specifications? I know 5160 is something that people talk about. I don't know what that means.
Spring steel.
What is it?
Yeah. 5160 is spring steel. It's the same kind of steel that's used for your car chassis.
Yeah.
So leaf springs and all that. So that's actually the steel that I picked up the quickest and what I forged the longest before I moved to a more professional steel, because I could get it at a junkyard and for dirt cheap.
Yeah.
or any of my old junker cars or anything like that. So it's a very readily available steel, but it's very hard to forge because it's kind of springy even when it's hot. So it's definitely a challenge for a novice to forge a leaf spring.
Did you have any type of? I'm sorry to cut you off. Did you have like a power hammer or anything like that you're working with? Because I've seen.
Oh no. I just got a press maybe 6 months ago that I use for Damascus, but I do almost 99% of my stuff by hand hammer. And
Damascus is that's nickel and carbon steel. I might have that wrong, but it's like they use separate plates of nickel and carbon steel, and then they hammer. They put a bunch of those plates together, and then they hammer it into one thing, and then they figure out if they're gonna put like the I don't know what the bevel's called, where it goes into the. I'm just thinking of like knives because I work as a cook, so like you'll have like these Damascus knives or whatever that some people that want to spend like $800 on a knife will have, and then they etch it in acrylic. Is it acrylic? It's not acrylic. It's some type of
ferrochloride.
Ferrochloride, and then basically it eats away so that you see like I can't remember. It gives you this topographic like impression on the knife. Like it looks like if you've ever seen a topographic map where they're showing you like the highs and lows of like a peaks and lows of a valley, it looks like that on a blade. Like I'm sure that people have seen it before. It's phenomenal. Like they're
looks
really
like an oil slick.
Part of it's really black. Yeah. Part of it's black, and the other part is the shiny. I don't know which one's the nickel, which one's the carbon steel, but
So the nickel will be the shiny part. The nickel. It's only 0.05% nickel. It'll actually, but it's just enough to keep the acid from etching into it. So what's left behind is what the acid doesn't etch. That's the nickel. The regular high carbon steel, that corrodes very fast. So I usually soak mine, and everybody's a little bit different. How they dilute. You dilute your ferric chloride with distilled water and everything. So it's not completely concentrated, but I usually soak mine for about an hour, and that gives me the most perfect results. Usually that's enough for me to feel it with my fingernail. And once I can feel it with my fingernail, I know it's a really good pit. And then I'll soak it in coffee after that. And instant coffee for, a couple hours. And instant coffee blackens that high carbon steel super, super black. It's really cool.
And then you get that.
I never would have imagined.
You get that really good gradient. Not even the gradient. Like you get like negative and positive space, and it's just like right inside of your face. Like that's so desirable. Like as a guy that works in a kitchen, like I could tell you, like I just own two really nice knives. One's a Wusthof, and the other one, it's just like a German steel blade that's been forged and laser etched and shit like that. And like it's just it's very good for what I'm doing. But there's also a Kamikoto blade that I have that is a Japanese steel sort of make, and like they're really nice, expensive knives. But then you start seeing the shit that's like the Damascus steel, and you're talking about $600, $700, $800, $1,000 sometimes for these pieces, but they're so beautiful. Like when you look at them, they're works of art more than, and you have to baby them a lot because I know the carbon steel especially like has a tendency to, you can get it really sharp, but it only stay really sharp for a little while. You got to baby it. You got to make sure that you're using it just right. But it's like just having that fucking knife in your just in your tool belt just makes you look like so much more of a badass. I was curious about when you're making this though, and you're sharpening it. Like I sharpen mine on a whetstone, Japanese whetstone style. I start off at like I don't usually use a real coarse grit or whatever. I start out like a 800 grit or whatever, and then sharpen it from there, and then go up to a polishing stone if I have one, which I usually don't. But if like somebody that I'm working with has one, is the same process in like your knife making or sword making, or do you like grind that edge away? Like what is your process for like finishing the blade and like sharpening it? Because that's something that matters to me as far as like a chef goes. You got to have like a sharp blade. It's very important.
Yeah, I also use whetstones. I've got a full whetstone set. I usually only sharpen on the whetstone though, just because it's so tedious and my time is very important. So I try not to burn 5 hours on a blade, per blade. So most of us actually use 2x72 belt sanders, or some guys use 1x30s. I used a 1x30 for years, and then 2x72s that go all the way up through the grit, all the way to Scotch-Brite. So you can get your entire blade finished on a belt sander and then move to your whetstone. And you could even sharpen on the belt sander. I know Jay Nielsen, who's one of the judges on Fortune Fire, he doesn't even use a whetstone. He uses a belt sander with a leather strap at the very end, which I've done before. And I think it's a little more personal when you do that final sharpening on the whetstone. And it keeps that ancient piece alive,
Yeah.
So I'm a very historical guy, and just being a nerd myself, and all that, just running it across the whetstone and kind of bringing it to life at the very end. That's, I don't know, just kind of fun to me. Get my fingers wet and watch the almost microscopic particles of the steel move away off the water, and it's really cool.
As you're working on the whetstone, you see that slurry build up, and that slurry is actually helping you like sharpen the knife the whole time. Like I've seen a couple like rookies at work be like, "Oh yeah, it's getting this dirt on." Like, no, keep that. That's helping you sharpen your blade. Keep that on there. Fucking keep working it and keep moving your fingers across. Like release pressure as you're pulling up, pressure as you're going down, and shit like that. Like there's something that's almost like meditation about like sharpening a knife. Like it really feels like you're just getting in the zone of like this knife and like making sure this edge is perfect, and you can feel it right on the whetstone. Like there's something like that kicks in your caveman instincts almost when you're fucking doing that. I feel like. Pat, what were you?
Yes.
I really want to know, like, here's my burning question. And Luke just got his sword. How do you feel about Gatlinburg swords? Like, look at this bad boy that Luke's about to sheath for you.
Oh man, classic.
Like,
what is that, Luke?
Not on this.
Give us a little description, buddy. What's happening right here with this knife?
All right, so
Spider-Man on the top.
It's got
That's how you know it's high quality. That's how you know that it was forged by a master smith.
So what does this come with the description? Did you buy it for like $40, or did you buy it for like 300?
I actually did not buy this. This was the first sword given to me by my dad in like 2006.
Sweet.
And it was in a big ass broken box late at night. Yeah. And
it was forged by Tobey Maguire himself.
John shaking his head like, yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, from what I'm looking at right now.
So when it comes to like Gatlinburg swords and things like that, I don't completely knock them, because it's a good way to get them on your wall, without having to pay a gajillion dollars for something you're never going to swing at anything. If that makes any sense. I do kind of feel bad that when I produce a sword, it's going to be upwards of $1,000 to several $1,000s to do this all by hand, and put all this time into a functioning, working, like war ready blade.
Right.
And it's sad that it's never going to get used. I know there's people that like cut weeds with swords and stuff like that, with a real sword. But went crazy here. Okay, sorry. When it comes to, no, you're fine. Sorry. When it comes to the cheaper stuff, though, I know a lot of guys get really, really stoked on stuff, and they'll stand by their really cheap stuff and swear that it's the best thing in the world. That's what gets me. At least admit what it is.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling up some of the work while we're talking so that people can see kind of. I mean, we're not recording video for this, but like these are really. What?
Cody's pulled up John's Instagram. If you want to go, guys who are listening, want to go give him a follow and check out some of the stuff he's working on.
Cincinnati Viking. I should actually just pull up the Instagram because this is via Facebook. It's Cincinnati Viking, right?
That's crazy.
Viking of Cincinnati.
Viking of.
Do you know who Dario Caston is?
Not that I know of.
He's a knife maker. I'm trying to actually have on the show soon. I did some designs for him. But it's crazy. When I found out how much them knives were, they were like $400, $600. I'm like, holy shit, man! People buy this stuff. And you're saying like $1,000? That's just crazy, man. It's got to be
my average knife price. It varies a lot. It all depends on what the customer wants, how custom they're going with it. If I'm engraving the handle, there's a lot of different factors, but my average kitchen knife runs about $500. Especially once we get into Damascus, which I like to do a lot of Damascus, and that's what a lot of people demand. So mainly the price is in the making of the Damascus. That's a very, very expensive and time consuming hobby to make, Damascus billets from scratch. And I make all mine from scratch. I don't cheat and buy a billet that's pre-made. I make all my Damascus in a basement, literally.
Can you go down that process for us? Like, what's the first step to the last step of making a Damascus blade? Because I think that's the new, like, trendy topic is the Damascus steel. Can you walk us through that whole process?
Yeah. So basically it's acquiring, my high carbon steel of choice, which I usually use 1095 or 1084. And then which is a really good etching steel and a very good steel to use for Damascus slash, something that's durable and has good edge retention. And then the 15N20 nickel steel. I end up with those. 15N20 nickel steel is very expensive. So, it sucks to order all this at once, but usually I order about $500 worth of steel at once, and then I cut it up into sections, spend about an hour prepping all that metal, getting it all evenly cut, and then I'll start to layer it how I want. So I'll stack it this way, stack it that way. Then that'll go into pressing it together, making sure everything's even and perfect, welding seams. I'll weld the corners of that billet, and then I'll weld it to a piece of rebar, and then that goes into the forge, and it takes forever to heat up. If you can imagine about a VHS cassette tape 2 inches wide of steel, welded to a piece of rebar, that's basically what I start out with.
God damn.
So
man.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me to stretch that steel out, it's usually like 8 to 10 pounds, I'd say roughly at the beginning, for me to stretch out with my press, and then I'll pull it into a really, really long bar. It's usually about 5 feet long, and then I'll cut that into increments. At that point, I can twist it, I can stack it, I can do all sorts of crazy things, and that's where Damascus is really cool, because every single bit that you do is going to make it unique. So my Damascus is not going to be the guy in Tennessee's Damascus, and so on and so forth.
On the knife that you have here, does the tang go all the way through the entire handle right there?
Yes, that's
and then you have it riveted to the side with the what kind of wood are you using right there?
I actually self-made that. That's a Kieranite epoxy handle. So
did you?
Yeah, I do my own epoxy and everything.
Do you just pour it into a mold and then like sand it after it's finished or whatever?
Yeah, so I'll make I just make them into rectangles basically. So they start out about 1/2 inch thick, and I'll take foam and make it 1 inch deep. Set it. It's about also the size of a VHS cassette. About 5 inches tall, and then I'll pour my epoxy colors into it, whatever I want. I chose a whole array of gold and bronze for that.
It looks beautiful, man. It looks so good next to that, that really dark blade. Like for listeners that don't know what we're holding up, he's holding a kitchen knife in his hand in the picture that we're holding, and it's about the size of his forearm in total. I'd say it's about what is that?
The size of Luke's cock.
8 to 10 inch blade. Is that about a 10-inch blade right there? It's like it looks like a.
That was an 8-inch blade, and I want to say a 4 3/4 handle.
It's a beautiful knife. It just looks like sleek
really
and just really nice. Like the handle, like all riveted together. I love the small rivets in there, and like the color choice that you use for the epoxy, like the way that it looks like lava flowing next to this. Like, it almost looks. It has this lava next to this obsidian that's sitting next to it. Like it's just a beautiful looking knife. I'd love to have that in my thing.
It looks like what I imagine the Mandalorian knife that he would cook with. It looks like Beskar steel that I'm looking at here. Something he would totally cook, something for Baby Yoda.
You were saying though, the epoxy. Sorry, we interrupted mid epoxy explanation for this blade specifically.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different types of epoxies out there. The epoxy I use is really it's kind of flexible, so it makes a great knife handle material, and it starts out clear, and then I'll mix in different mica powders into it to give it a shimmer. So that handle is actually almost glittery when it's in your hand. The picture doesn't do it justice. It's very, very shimmery.
Oh, I bet.
Which is really cool. So, but basically, I pour it into a mold, and then that sets for 3 days. It's a very slow drying epoxy, but it's very durable. And then from that point, I put it on a bandsaw. I cut it up into little rectangles, and then I'll fit it to the knife handle, cut it out on a jigsaw, and then from there it's just finishing up all the edges, sanding.
I don't know a lot about like epoxy or anything like that, but is it just like a standard like 2-part epoxy, the way that you would like use an epoxy for anything else? You mix the two chemicals and you have a certain set time, but this one just works a little bit slower. Is there an advantage to the slow setting one? Does it is that slow set time like make a more durable handle, or like what is
from what I found? Yeah, because I've got other stuff that I used. I don't know if you saw my Viking boat on Instagram.
I did not.
That I did with a bunch of epoxy.
Really quickly, add our account. I just requested you. Your page is private. That way that I can pull it up right here.
Oh yeah, my fault.
No, you're all right. You're all right. But
I get tired of bots.
Yeah. Understandable. As soon as you add that, though, I wanted to talk to you about the Viking longship, but
Yeah, doing that right now, man. All right. All right, and I'm following as well.
thank you very much. Let me refresh the page. There we are. All right, the Viking longship. How far down do I got to scroll?
A little bit more.
That's all right. We'll find it. I can't believe that you have the skill and ability to figure all this shit out. Like, you're just, like, the way that you sell it, you're just sitting in your backyard bored, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to fucking, like, figure out how to make a Viking longship, and I'm going to start, like, using the...
Whoa, look at that thing.
That's so
This is so
fucking
impressive.
awesome. Holy shit.
Thanks.
That's
You
not
guys
even
are
the most
moving with
awesome
this
part.
bad boy?
It's seaworthy. He's
Yeah.
out there with his lady on the fucking, in the middle of the
Yeah.
fucking, in the
Damn.
middle of a lake. Where did you take this thing out at?
Get a bunch
Dude,
of
I've taken this
mead,
thing-
go out there.
I've taken it everywhere, dude. I love this thing. It's 16 feet long, 3 sheets of plywood, roughly, and what you see the hull, one half of the hull is 1 sheet of plywood, and then the same on the other end. So it's relatively lightweight. You can pick it up with 2 people. That was a fun build, man. That was a really, really fun build.
How long
How long
did it
did that
take you to
take
put
you?
this together?
It took me 8 months, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have a print off a forum. I didn't have anything. So the only thing I could go on was a whole array of photos I had taken when the Viking display came from Sweden into Cincinnati Museum Center. So they had a bunch of little tiny, this is called a Viking fairing. They had a whole bunch of little tiny boats in there, like tuna boats. And I was like, oh, sweet, I'm going to take pictures of this. And I did it in a modern way with epoxy, but still in the same hull shape. And the only picture I had was a rough hand-drawn sketch of what each plank looked like.
That is so
I could
incredible.
like match the angle.
How cool.
And so there was a lot of cutting and sanding and guesstimation, but overall, I mean, people love it. I get a lot of pictures, and
I bet.
I took it down the river
Fucking
this past
insane.
summer, and all the college people with their beards, yeah, it was really cool. Yeah.
This is fucking incredible, man. Like, holy shit, look at this thing. It's for the listeners. Like, imagine there's 2 slats in the middle of it. If you don't know boats, like, I don't know dick about boats, but you could fit 2 people inside of it, maybe 3. Like, I don't know what the weight specifications are, but maybe 3 if you're 3 small people. It's got like is that what is the head? Is it a dragon? Is it supposed to, okay, so there's a dragon with its tongue out. It's got like this very like intricate, like my dad used to do woodworking growing up, so like I have such an appreciation for what you've done here, because this looks fucking beautiful. Like, you put some
Thank you.
real time, like with a jigsaw, like cutting these pieces out and like making sure
yeah.
that all this shit was smoothed out. Like, you took some sandpaper, and I guarantee that everything is symmetrical on both sides when you look at it. We're just looking at the profile, but I guarantee if you go to both sides, like, there's no way that you're making something like this and everything's not symmetrical. And the fact that
Yeah.
it's like seaworthy, then on the back you've got these runes, like you've got the tail with a little circle. What is that what's that image called? I don't know what the
So that's called the Helm of Awe. So basically, that's so you don't. It's supposed to strike fear in your enemy, which is a kind of a cool thing to have on a little boat. So,
yeah,
you know.
dude. Little 2-seater. You got the fucking
Yeah.
fear of God on your ass and shit like
Yeah,
that.
and especially this black ship, and like people all the time, I either get the holy crap, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen on the lake, or I get, oh my god, this guy's terrifying, row away, you know.
No, dude, I would
So,
want to.
You
If I
carry
just
like an axe on you or anything like when you're
Oh
on this
yeah,
bad boy?
yeah, dude, I play it up, man, all the
Got
time.
a
Like
torch.
bro,
I've
how
always got a speaker, a really loud JBL speaker that I
Yeah.
blare like shamanic music on.
do you
you
play
know,
Wardruna?
Yeah, plunder that shit.
Yeah.
Do you play Wardruna ever?
Wardruna and Hylung, yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude, because Kavitra from Wardruna used to play drums for Gorgoroth, which is my favorite black metal band.
Yeah.
So I got super,
yeah.
and then Gall used to do, he did a couple lyrics on like Bjarken and stuff like that on Wardruna's albums. So I was going to ask you about that when I saw this, and I was like, I bet this motherfucker probably liked black metal, but now he's more into Bathory and Wardruna and shit like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm really into Hylung. Like that's probably my number one. That's the music I forge to. It just kind of puts me in a trance, and I can just concentrate and, you know, really get into the mindset of what I'm doing.
Is this part of your
Dude,
heritage? Like,
fucking
are you?
play that when you're on your boat and you're in character next time. Just fucking run up on someone's picnic, just pillage their fucking give me that sandwich, and just throw a hatchet at them or something. You know, just scare
Yeah,
the
for
kids
sure.
off.
Bro, this shit is so sick. Just if
Yeah.
you guys
Also,
want to
yeah,
check
there's
this
the
out,
boat
go
right there.
follow him. Like Viking of Cincinnati, like so followable Instagram. Like everybody else is just posting like themselves, like,
shit.
hey, look, here's my cheeseburger, what up? Like with the fucking peace sign over their eyes. Like this man is like crafting fucking the most beautiful knives you've ever seen, swords. Like he's got a whole boat that he built that's not only like just like a cool show boat that could be like a really dope piece for like your yard or something. This thing's seaworthy. And I was curious about that. How did you know that this was going to be seaworthy? I can't imagine this is your first boat that you've built. Like how are you
Yep.
so confident?
It was my first boat, and I just trusted it. That was it. I put a Facebook post up that said, "Well, everybody, I'm going to the lake. Like this could be the end of my boat that I've spent 8 months on.
Damn.
I might die. You know, just to kind of like go balls to the wall and say like, well, here, I put my money where my mouth is. Here we go."
What did you look up to make sure that you knew that you were doing the right things to make this thing like buoyant and stuff?
YouTube. I watched a kayak video on YouTube of a guy building a kayak, and basically I watched that probably 10 times. I'm not kidding you. It's several hours of video, and I watched it so much.
Bro, I just stumbled upon something on your Instagram. Did you make this thing that I've just pulled up?
Yes.
I was
Jesus
gonna
fucking
say,
Christ.
I was gonna say, like, something we're overlooking right now is your leatherwork skill. Holy shit, man! It's been fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, that's not from a pattern either. That's all custom designed by me.
Did you hand stamp
Wearing
all
that anywhere?
the things inside of there? You took oh my god, dude, this is so beautiful.
You look like leather Sauron, dude. Like you're ready to just
I made that for Halloween, a Halloween party with my wife's coworker 2 years ago.
This is so gangster. Look at this
You
fucking
do
thing.
the Ren Fair and shit with this?
Yeah.
I love the Ren
I dress
Fair.
up at Ren Fair every year. We go as a family. Like it's like
Yeah.
a tradition for us.
I get like a season pass every year. Rachel, my fiance, she got me real deep into it. I dress up now and shit.
Dude, you got to dress up. If you're listening and you don't know, if you go to a Renaissance festival, you got to be in character. It'll be 10 times better.
It totally
Speaking
is.
of which-
Totally is better all the time.
There I
Speaking
am
of
there,
which-
yeah.
Yeah, there you got one right there. Now,
Yeah,
did
I
you
made
do
that belt and I made
Got
my
the fucking
shoes.
You made your
horn
shoes and shit,
everything.
dude.
Yeah,
That is
I
so
made my
fucking
shoes
cool.
and my axe hanger and that's a knife on my wrist actually. That antler sticking out on that
Got some
like wrist
Assassin's
guard.
Creed looking ass shit
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, that's a little 2-inch blade on my wrist there.
Yo, let me
and
ask
then,
you this.
my
Speaking
horn.
of Ren Fair, you see these fucking blade shops there, you know. I never buy anything, but one time I saw like it's like an anime Attack on Titan sword, and I was like, I should have just fucking bought that. That's so cool. But how do you feel about the weapons that they have there? You think that they're
I want
your honest opinion.
The one shop is really cool. I think they're called Legacy Forge. They're all legit. It's all forged
The one
stuff.
by the Game of Thrones
That's-
seat.
That's the one in the back, I think, with the
Gotcha.
Game of
Okay.
Thrones seat. I don't know much about those guys. I know he does like brass pouring and stuff like that. And brass knives you get what you get. I mean, I wouldn't carry around a brass knife. I mean, they used to in the ancient times, but
Out of necessity, those fuckers are gonna bend on you and dull real fast.
Yeah,
No
if
thanks.
it's a fantasy,
and they're gonna
if it's
turn
a
green.
fantasy sword, it's probably not going to be real.
Would
but-
you say,
So,
Luke?
so you're talking about the blacksmith that's typically up front, just past the front entrance.
Yeah,
and
over
he's
by
got
like the
an
food court
actual
area.
actual forge with like almost always an entire crowd of people watching him.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
whenever I'm there, it's usually half my time spent watching this man go
Don't
to
blame
work.
ya.
I used to
Dude,
watch
it's
the
the most
glass blower when I was a kid.
Fascinating thing to watch is the blacksmith. There's nothing more fascinating to watch, especially when you have like such a sci-fi love, like swords, dude. He's gonna make swords.
Yeah.
But he never makes a sword there. He usually makes like hooks and locks and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
it's still fucking awesome to watch.
Still,
Well,
It's
he's
just-
still cool.
He's doing a showpiece, like the swords you're putting like hours and hours and time into and shit like that. Like he's doing something that he could show people right away.
yeah.
Like
yeah.
it's more of a presentation, you know what I mean?
Well,
That's
John-
probably why he's
Yeah.
doing that.
Do you ever like think about like seeing if you can be on the Ren Fair to do this shit? You ever thought about asking him?
I guarantee he
Yeah.
is already.
Yeah, so with Ren Fair, I'm already trying to acquire a piece of property there to do my forging and things like that. It all kind of comes down to what's going on with COVID, because I was corresponding with them right in the middle of COVID, and then we kind of lost contact. So
A mess over there right now.
yeah, so not sure what's going on with that. But that looks to be in the future, hopefully. But as of right now, I just moved onto my own property, and I'm like teaching for people all the time. They come over and hang out and everything like that. So I'm still in the community. I'm doing things. There's a lot of bladesmiths from Forge and Fire that we forge together already. We teach classes with each other. We do all this different stuff. So we have our own still community that we can kind of keep to outside of the Ren Fair. It's not like I'm just depending on the Ren Fair for business and things like that. So that's really good. But eventually, yes, that would be like my ultimate goal would be to be there just for 2 months a year to be living my best nerd moment, I guess.
Just looking at your shit, you're a killer, man. Like, you deserve
Thank
to be
you.
up there. Like, I feel like you should be, like, the first spot up there. Like, fuck the guy making locks. I feel like you'd be out there forging a sword, like, in the same time dude's making a lock. Like, just looking at, like, you look like you're a young dude. You can't be older than your 30s. And you've got a full Instagram, an entire motherfucking Instagram filled to the very top with, like, all this cool shit that you made, leather work, like, cosplay work. Like, all your nerd fantasies come to fruition because you just put the time and effort in. That's so fucking amazing, man. Kudos to you. Everybody go and check them out. We did kind of zoom past this, and I wanted to bring it back. The Fords and Fire thing. I didn't ask you because I'd never seen your episode or anything like that. Like I said, when you first came on today was when I found out that you were on the show. How far did you make it in the competition? Can you tell us about that competition? We kind of zoomed over all this.
How'd you get into this at all? Like, what's the startup process and how did it end?
Well, to answer your question, I'm just gonna say check it out if you haven't seen it, because I can't give away spoilers, even though it's already out. But I don't want to get
won the whole thing. He's actually a judge now.
Yeah.
No, no. But there have been bladesmiths from the show like giving away details and like had ended up in a lawsuit. And even though it's already aired, I'm just going to cover my ass. And
you signed an NDA. I got you.
Totally cool.
I hear I'm picking up. What
I'm
you're
in season
down.
5, episode 25, the Sengizi episode. It's
where can we get
African hooked thing. Check it out.
Is it on Netflix or where can you get it?
I know Netflix has some. I'm definitely on Hulu. I'm not sure if season 5.
Go to Hulu. Our listeners have Hulu. Go to Hulu. Fords and Fire, season 5, episode 27.
Hulu.
You said.
I'm watching that shit.
I'm watching it tonight, man. I'm sorry that I didn't get to watch it in the meantime.
No worries.
I feel like a bad podcast host, but yeah, keep going.
Anyway, I've been doing this 6 years. That was on my 3rd year, so I'm twice as good as I was then. So put that into perspective.
Trying to go back,
Yeah. So that was probably the coolest experience I've ever freaking done. Well, I don't know, up there. I've done a lot of really cool things, especially like with the military and things. But as far as outside of the military, that was definitely the coolest thing.
What were the standout moments for you without spoilers? Like, what was like something that to you on that show you really feel? Because I'm sure that you're working against other professionals and like other local areas and shit like that, but then you're being judged by some of the best, and that I have to imagine it's a small community. Like, there's not a lot of people doing this shit right now.
Yeah.
So like the people that you're being judged by, I'm sure are probably people that you look up to and shit like that. So what are those standout moments for you as far as that show goes?
My standout moment was I got to have personal time with the judges after it was all over. And where I was like talking to, the host and the 3 judges all at the same time for 20 minutes, just me, and I'm like, holy crap. I mean, these are guys that I've looked up to and I've watched on YouTube, and I've just like, I've obsessed over every video, and here they are, flesh and blood in front of me, and they're telling me good job. Like, holy crap, and that's like a moment where I'm kind of like, damn, I did something, and at least for me. And
that's a beautiful thing, man. Like, that's so beautiful. Like, to see like the level of craftsmanship that you're at. Like, I don't know a dick about that world, but when I look at what you're putting out there, I'm like, this is like professional quality. Like, this could be in any fucking like Ren Fair shop. This could be any like online shop for like medieval weapons, or even like movie like memorabilia grade stuff, like something that somebody would use for a set piece. I'm like, you're that level of good. I know that because I've like, you could just see it. Like, I don't have to know a lot about it to know that, and like to have that fucking validated for you by action, not just by like fucking weirdos like me with a podcast, but like somebody that you look up to that has like actually helped you define your craft. That's got to be I can't imagine that. It's got to be a beautiful moment. It's got to be really validating for you.
David, my favorite moment was David Baker and I were talking motorcycles for a quick minute because he loves his bike, and he actually rode his bike to set, and so we're sitting there talking bikes and everything. He goes, man, I might come through Ohio sometime, like, be ready. I'm like, oh, okay, then that's cool. And then he looked at me and he goes, so what the fuck are you working for FedEx for? And I was like, thank you, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Like, yeah. So, because he saw my Instagram and I'm like, oh man, so that was really cool. That was really freaking cool.
That's fucking awesome. I got to take a piss. You guys hold it down. I'll be right back.
But what I'm curious of is like, how'd you get on the show? So yeah, you saw the show and you really liked it. What, you applied or something? Like,
I did like a half-ass, like, I'm not going to get on, like, whatever, dude. I'm just some guy in the backyard. And I fill out this questionnaire, it's like just a casting request that anybody can do. And I sent that in and then like didn't hear anything for like the longest time. And like 2 or 3 weeks later, all of a sudden I'm down making a knife and I flip open my phone, it vibrates, and there's a Gmail, from Fortune Fire Casting, like, oh, hello, like, we'd like to, have you do an interview. And I'm like,
hell yeah,
holy balls. And then, so then I did several Skype interviews. I did another questionnaire. There's a huge vetting process. You got to go through a background check, all this stuff. Cause obviously guys with blades around celebrities, they don't want a psychopath on the show. So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, all this different stuff. And then, like, it's kind of up in the air if you're going to make it on or not. And then, they like have you send 1,000 photos and, really try to prove yourself because you're trying to beat out other people to get on. And so no matter what place you get in that show, just to get on there is a freaking process. And, there's like thousands of people who have applied. So, yeah.
So you said you had to send like 1,000 photos. Was that like of your
not literally 1,000?
Yeah, but like of your crafts work, like of things you've made. Oh, okay. So I was just about to ask what sort of like proof or vetting process did they go through? Like, okay, you can actually make things.
Yeah, and it wasn't just knives too. I sent paintings, sculpture, my leather work, my leather armor, was sent to them. I did, pretty much the whole shebang. And my boat, my boat wasn't even built then, I don't think, but yeah.
So I'm sure at some point you've really cut yourself before, right? Have you ever seen any serious blacksmithing wounds that you can tell us a crazy story about?
I get burned a lot. No, actually, we all are at like the pinnacle of always work safe. At least the smart ones are, I always use eye protection. Some of the guys that don't, they're the ones wearing the eye patch,
Oh, shit.
Yeah. There have been people that have been killed though. I mean, it's a very big deal to be, it's a big deal to be safe while you're doing this, especially on power things. So there was a guy who had taken a knife to the chest that kicked off of his belt sander and it just kicked back into his
Fuck, bro.
Yeah. And there's different techniques on how you're supposed to hold the blade. For example, holding the blade downward when you're going across the belt sander instead of blade up, so the blade doesn't catch the belt and kick onto you. And same thing, never do tip up, always tip down and things like that. Yeah, it's just work smart and not stupid.
Have you ever got like big shards of metal where you have to take an earth magnet? Like my dad used to work in a so he used to work in like a machine shop, so he would constantly get like whenever you're deburring parts and stuff like that, when you're first in a machine shop, you're doing like the shop bitch work, basically deburring parts, and like if you're not wearing gloves or whatever and you feel cocky, like you might get a big chunk of metal stuck inside of you and you have to get a real strong earth magnet to put it on there,
like the fishing magnets almost, like where
it's the ones that like when you put them together you have to use like real force to pull them apart. You use those magnets to take like fucking pieces of steel out of your hand. Do you have anything like that?
Yikes.
I've got several pairs of tweezers on hand at all times, and I have like filleted pieces out of my hand before, like had to cut my skin open because it's been deep, but it's nothing I've ever had to go to the ER for. So knock on wood, I work methodically, not like an idiot. So,
makes me think of that scene in fucking Ricky Bobby where they were trying to pry the knife out with another knife.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, Pat. I'm sure that's
no. He said like he had to cut it open in order to get it out. It's just, it makes me think of that. It's just, that's wild.
Well, yeah, when it goes in at an angle and then it ends up like way back behind the skin, and you can't get it out the original hole because it's like shredded and it's awful. But
Yikes,
Sounds
dude.
insane.
What the fuck?
Let's talk about your life before the forging and stuff like that. I assume that's the Marine Corps years and stuff like that.
yes,
Let's talk
yes.
about that. Did you do any tours? Like
yeah, 3.
the whole thing,
Give us
right
some
from the
stories,
beginning.
bro.
Let's hear the story. I'm sure you got
so,
something.
I was basically led to the Marine Corps by my 2 cousins, who are both 2 and 3 years older than me. They're brothers, Nick and James. Basically, I watched them go to Parris Island and go to boot camp and graduate, and I got to be there for both of those graduations. And I was like, man, I'm kind of like a little bitch Christian kid. I need to go like man up,
Now hold on.
And
Did you ever watch any war movies that sold you on it, like Full Metal Jacket or anything like that, where you saw like
it wasn't
Arlie
any
Ermy
of the Marine
screaming?
Corps movies.
Oh,
It
really?
was the ones that got me amped up were like Black Hawk Down and We Were Soldiers, which are both Army, which is
Yeah.
pretty funny. But I didn't care about the Full Metal Jacket's basically almost all boot camp, and so it's kind of gay in that like first half of the movie where I'm just like, this is just boot camp. Like,
But it's
you know,
hilarious. Like I'm
Boot
there for the
camp, yeah.
dialogue the whole time. I'm like, this
Yeah,
is really well written dialogue, and then I shut it off as soon as Private Pile blows his brains out and they go into the monologue. I'm like, this movie's over.
Yeah.
No thanks.
And then like everybody always asks like, dude, tell me about boot camp. Like, and boot camp was the easiest thing I ever did in the Marine Corps. Like hands down. Because you're mixed in with every other job in the Marine Corps. So the
Everyone
really
has to
tough,
do it.
yeah, the really tough shit came at the School of Infantry after boot camp. And that's when it was like a kick in the face. Like, all right, motherfucker, you're about to be like the tip of the spear for the U.S. Marine Corps, like, as a grunt. So if you're not man enough to do anything, then like, fuck you. And that's, nobody takes care of you. Nobody, it's basically you prove yourself to yourself. And then that's where you learn how to be someone. And
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying in metaphors, but tell us a actual example of what you mean.
Yeah, like what does that mean? Like, hey, you're gonna have to deal with it now. Like, what do you mean? Like, how tough is it in the training?
So, and obviously, training's 200 times easier than real life, but nobody's there to wipe your ass. And I don't mean literally, but carrying all the weight you've got to carry, getting ready as fast as you got to get ready, being mentally prepared, not quitting, being just sucking it the fuck up, and that's it.
Yeah.
Are you talking about being in a deployment situation where you're actually like on the ground in like a hostile area, or are you talking about just like another schooling situation?
No, well, definitely on deployment, it's like that. But once you get to deployment, then you've already bonded with your whole team. You already know what's going on. You're all legitimate Marines. I'm talking just after boot camp when the School of Infantry hits. I mean, that's what I'm specifically referencing was that's what really taught me how to be a man. It wasn't really boot camp.
Did you get the brand? Is the brand thing real? I think it's Jarhead,
no,
right?
I didn't get branded. There's probably a few guys that do it, but I got a Marine Corps neck tattoo, which I got after I was out, because a lot of guys will get it like the minute that they graduate boot camp, they'll get it like right there, and then everybody has it, and you get made fun of most of the time for it. Like, basically, in my opinion, you should do your time in service and then get it. That's why I put it on my neck. I couldn't have it on my neck when I was in, so I did it there just because I'm super proud of it. So it's very visible. And I wanted it in a place that would never allow me back in the military with it on.
Yeah.
So,
Do you mind if I ask some questions about your tours?
Yeah.
And if you're not comfortable answering any of it, that's totally understandable, because I understand that these questions may come off as rude. But I mean, like, when you went on these tours, like, I'm assuming you saw some crazy shit go down at some point, right? Like, can you give me some stories on what's going on over there on your tours?
Yeah, dude, probably right away. The first 2 months were kind of boring, but the very first night that we were there,
Which location?
literally in Helmand Province. So
Okay.
I landed in Camp Leatherneck for like a week.
What
That's where
country?
you spend kind of like Afghanistan.
Okay.
Sorry, my
That's all
apologies. I thought
Hot.
Yeah.
I don't know all the all the terms and shit like that. I don't know the
Gotcha.
places.
No, you're good. So we landed in Afghanistan, spent basically like a week there to kind of prep and get ready on like the huge base. And then you leave the huge base and you don't come back until you're about to go back to the United States. Like that's it. You're out forward the entire time. It's not just like a, you know, hey, we're going to go out for 3 days and fight some bad guys, and then we're going to come back and kick it where Pizza Hut is. Not like that at all.
Yeah.
So basically my first Afghanistan deployment was just 7 months of just talking to locals, dealing with the Taliban all at the same time, and trying to do the hearts and minds thing, you know, win over the populace so we can help the counterinsurgency operation, you know, like cleaning out the Taliban by being cool people. But the problem is the Afghan people don't want you there. So then you're trying to be a bro for everybody, but then like, they're like, fuck you, dude. You know? So it's just a shitty time. But you kind of have a lot of fun doing it at the same time. And of course you have your bad days, but you know, I was 21, 22 years old, like waking up, putting grenades on and like doing shit that mattered in another place that nobody talks about. Like that's the way I look at it. And
Totally.
now it, you know, when I wake up and I just go to a part-time job, I'm just kind of like, well,
Yeah.
like this is kind of fucking stupid, you know?
I've
And
heard-
that's why I got into forging, is I needed something to take me back to that warrior mindset, which is where the whole Viking thing comes in, you know. I'm stuck in this mindset all the time, and I got to have an outlet to get it out. My aggression, my anger from the past, or my, you know, worry from the future, and, you know, all this other stuff. You know, forging is my way to kind of cope with all that. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's how it comes
That's
full circle.
amazing.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
My-
Hey, thank you for your service, bro. By the way,
Yeah,
just gotta
yeah.
say that. You ever see any of those camel spiders down there?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's
They're
things
huge.
I'm terrified of them. I'm not gonna lie.
I
Those
wouldn't
things
fuck
are
with them either.
freaky as hell, dude.
On average, they're about the size of like a full Dorito. You know, they're not
Oh.
like too
Well,
too
still
monstrous.
a
Yeah.
full Dorito. Goddamn, fuck that shit.
Yeah.
Like I was taking
Yeah.
a piss in my washroom
Fuck
sink the other day,
that.
and I look over and I see a thing that's not part of my like busted wall that's down there by the drywall, and I'm like, that's a fucking spider. Oh god, and I'm pissing, like holding my dick, like, oh please don't jump. And I was like, oh no, it's a cricket spider. But I'm still equally terrified of that, and that thing's half the size of a Dorito. If the thing is the whole size of a Dorito, I am fucking pissed. I'm putting my dick back in my pants while I'm pissing in my pants, and I'm laying in bed. I don't care.
Here's what's gonna
I'll wash it tomorrow.
Here's what's gonna creep you out the whole time, dude. I got bored. There's a lot of downtime, like in Afghanistan and stuff. My third deployment, I was super bored. I hated the thing I was doing. The whole. I was a civilian contractor for my third deployment. It was just super boring. Wasn't what it was chalked up to be. All this stuff. So I took a whole bunch of 550 cord that I had, and I made a cat of nine tails out of 550 cord.
The ones where you can
And-
whip somebody's back or whatever.
That was my camel spider whip. So the
That's awesome.
reason being is most people are too slow to fucking stomp them. They are so fast. They are
Really?
incredibly fast. They would juke and sprint. And I mean, I'm dead serious. Look up videos of them running at a full sprint.
I've seen them like eat mice and other. I have like a wet specimen of one. And it's like
I'm
this big.
scared of them. I don't want to look up
But
videos of them.
They look like termite spiders. They're gigantic.
they're fucking
yeah,
scary as shit.
Mice.
They're not a real arachnid. They're some sort of freaking like
Centipede or
ant family
something.
you know, yeah.
Max
It's just-
Mullerin would know.
It's a giant ass ant, but it looks like a spider because it's like front two legs are actually feelers, and they just like hover over their body, and it makes them look real creepy.
Oh, I'm sure.
Ugh.
They're
freaky
more
animal.
related to a scorpion though.
So you're
Yeah.
walking around like the BDSM Marine with a fucking cat of nine tails. Just, all right, boys, I'm ready to whip
Basically.
some camel spiders.
Yeah, but oh, dude, that thing was so fast, so I could whip those fuckers off anything. Yeah,
That's crazy, dude. Man, because I've seen like pictures of like their bites on people, and it's like gangrene. I don't know what the other term is. It's just
Necrosis.
fucked up. It's just horrible. I'm just ugh. God.
Yeah. I didn't mean to get off topic earlier, too. By the way,
No problem.
but I was like 2 weeks in Afghanistan, and then I broke off. So basically, right away, we had a civilian hit an IED like right outside of our what we
That's
call
a
our
bomb,
COP,
right?
our combat outpost. An IED is an improvised explosive device. It's something that anybody can make and plan in the road, and and you can set it off with a cell phone. You can set it off with a tripwire. You can set it off with 1,000 different ways. So It's basically got
Yikes.
no limitations for your average poor Afghan farmer to build one and throw it in the road. So, or, in a wall or in a doorway or wherever they want to do it. And they're super creative about it. And my biggest thing I had to take away and had to learn right away was that the Afghan people are not stupid like we as Americans want to play. Like you see in like the newspaper articles or the like the little funny cartoons and stuff. You see political cartoons and like Afghans are always like, dumb or like stupid terrorists, dumb, like cartoon idiots like Ahmed and it's not like that
They're
at all.
human beings.
These are
people.
thinking, fighting, like legitimate human beings who have been fighting, as long as any culture on the face of this earth.
And you're on their turf.
Yeah. And they've got less money and less technology and they can keep up, dude. Like they are good. They're good.
Yeah, that's the cradle of civilization. Like that's where all of civilization came from, was that area. Yeah. I mean, if the Mongols hadn't came through there and destroyed everything and threw all their books in the water and then waited for all the survivors to come back and destroyed all of them, like they would literally be like the biggest nation on the face of the planet right now if it wasn't for the Mongols back in the 1100s. Like that's the idea, man.
Interesting.
Like Afghanistan's the size of Texas, and we in Russia couldn't take it down. It's the size of Texas. Think about that.
And also, it's not
interesting.
The tricky part of like those Middle Eastern countries is that they're not really countries. Like that's what I've heard, at least from like podcasts that I've listened to. But they're like conglomerates of people that have chose. Yeah, we'll live next to these neighbors because we kind of have similar values. They're like little like provinces that all live together that we label a country so that we can get our head around it being a country. But it's not really a country. It's like a bunch of little provinces with its own like leaders and stuff like that. It's like they're almost living in this like a caste system, this like archaic system, kind of, sort of.
Is he making this shit up, John?
No.
Do you know what he's talking about?
No, yeah.
I'm impressed.
Idea. I'm impressed. Yeah. But I don't want to sit here and like tell a bunch of war stories or anything, but basically, we lost a few guys and, all that. I mean, it's part of the infantry. Shitty. Obviously really sucks balls. And we're still losing buddies today from suicide and the police department. I lost a buddy 2 weeks ago on the police department in Sacramento, who I was in Afghanistan with. And so it's an ever occurring thing as a veteran to we're still all together. We keep in touch with each other. We're all like best friends, but like watching some of these guys pass away after you survive Afghanistan is a pain in the ass too. And, but then, sorry,
keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But then everybody's basically ready to die. You're knowing, that the days are going to get shitty. That you might not ever see your family again. You don't think about it. You're out there and you're changing the world, one foot in front of the other, doing what you're supposed to do, just trying to help, and looking at the kids, and, just seeing them get to play in the road again when they weren't playing in the road before because they were too afraid to come outside. I mean, just simple things like that, that you can change and make all the bad stuff worth it. That's what's awesome. That was my biggest takeaway, I think.
Yeah. It's a great way of putting it. I mean, that's how a lot of people that I know that have served have said, like, I'm making a change. Like there's evil in the world and we have to be the ones to help because no one else is out there to do it. So, I mean, it makes sense. I understand absolutely where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you sharing that. That's intimate.
Thanks, man.
Do you have any disillusion at all about anything after you came back? Like as far as like political views on the war or anything like that? You don't have to share them, but as far as like, do you ever feel like, man, for the wrong reasons I was here. Like, I don't feel like I did anything wrong, but like, or do you ever feel the opposite? Like whenever somebody criticizes it and says that, do you feel anger towards that?
Dude, really? Like, I'm all about freedom of speech. So I don't really like to pipe up and like silence people. I think one of the biggest problems with the world is just people either need to be more, we either need to shut the fuck up more or listen more, and not argue about it. Like personally, I want to say what I want to say. And so does everybody else. So, like, I'm not going to stop anybody from saying their shit. Right.
Sure.
Like
totally,
that's it. So
did you have
as far as political stuff, like I really I really didn't care then, and I really don't care now. Basically, for me, I joined for a personal, selfish reason, and that was it.
Yeah.
It seems like it
literally
did great things in your life for you. Like, it seems like it's done nothing but like
Dude,
grow you as a human
yeah.
being. You have pride about it enough to put it on your neck. Like, you build these beautiful things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know your life, but like just seeing on Facebook, you look like you have a happy family. It seems like it's done
It's everything I
super
am today.
positive things in your life, and maybe that's not everybody's experience, but that was yours, and like it really did work out for you. Is what I can just see.
When you can do the things that we did, and it just in your everyday life, and in your Marine Corps life, making myself realize that I grew up in a very strict, like normal Christian home, like all that kind of stuff,
Same.
and kind of sheltered, and all that. And then when I got into the Marine Corps right after high school, I'm like, holy fuck, this is nuts. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not this kind of person, And then I became that kind of person, and then I achieved these things, and we won some fights, and we won, this and that, and you're making shit happen, and you're just like this kid, and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm somebody that I thought I didn't know who I was, and then you just kind of build on that, and it basically, but it's all in your head. That's it. It's just positive mental thinking, having a positive mental attitude about things, turning a shitty day into a good day, learning from your mistakes, and never saying I quit or no. That's basically all I live by, which is a big Marine Corps standard, and being able to adapt and appreciate what you have instead of what you don't. And dude, I mean, they are everything that I am today. I might have hated it here and there. I might have loved it here and there. It's a wishy-washy thing, but at the same time, dude, I recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, you wouldn't be who you are today without it.
Yeah.
It seems like it's very positively impacted your life. John, we're turning into a pumpkin. I just want to thank you so much for coming on. I hope that maybe we could have you on again. Like, I think that this would be another follow-up episode if you have more stuff you want to talk about, if you have more things you're building and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know Sean told me that he gave you materials for a knife. I can't wait to see that, because Sean's my best friend in the world, and he was like, yeah, I gave John all these materials for the knives. Looking at your Instagram and hearing your story and shit like that, I can't wait to be at his house cooking food and shit for his family, and touch that blade that you've hand forged yourself. I'm fucking looking forward to that. Maybe in the future at some point when I have some extra money, I can get something from you as well. Everybody, all of our listeners, go and check out Viking of Cincinnati. That's the one, right? Or it's not Cincinnati. Yeah, Viking of Cincinnati on Instagram, or Jon Turner, Jon Turner on Facebook. I don't know if he's trying to add you or not, but if you want to just see the shit that he's doing,
if
it's
you look
really
like a bot
impressive
profile, you're probably not going to get accepted.
Yeah.
It's really impressive shit. Go and check him out, man. Your story's fucking awesome. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on the podcast. These stories are fucking riveting.
Gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
Fucking blast, John.
Much love, dude.
All right, guys.
Take it easy, man. Thank you.
See you, buddies.
All right, that's the first half of the podcast. Join us for the Patreon. We're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right there.